All right, today we're tackling one of the most powerful and honestly, most counterintuitive ideas in the entire startup world. It's this. If you want to build something huge, something that scales to millions, you have to start by doing things that absolutely do not scale. I mean, it's the question every single founder faces, right? You've built something you pour your heart into, but you're starting from scratch, absolute zero. So, how do you get that first flicker of life? How do you convince those first 10 people, or heck, even that very first person, to actually care? Well, to find the real answer, we first have to completely bust a myth, a really big one. It's the story we always see in the movies, the one we read in the headlines. But let me tell you, it's almost never how it actually goes down. And wow, the difference here is just night and day. You've got the myth on one side, this clean, perfect process where you build it, you hit a launch button, and boom, the world just magically shows up. But the reality? Oh, it's the total opposite. It's messy, it's manual, and a lot of the time, it's just painful. You ship a version that's just good enough, and then you have to personally fight and claw for every single user. And this messy reality brings us to a huge hurdle that every new company faces. It's called the cold start problem, and yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Here's the core truth of it. Momentum has to be created from nothing. There is no secret growth hack button you get to press on day one. You're starting with an empty room, and you have to go out and personally invite every single person to the party. This story from Airbnb's early days just shows you how brutal this can be. They weren't just getting ignored. They were being actively blown off. I mean, can you imagine pitching your heart out and an investor literally gets up and walks out on you without even finishing his smoothie? The demoralization is real. And this is the world so many founders live in. So if you're facing that empty room and that kind of soul-crushing rejection, what's the answer? Well, it's something that sounds completely backwards, but it works pretty much every time. This is it, the big idea. Do things that don't scale. It's all about founders rolling up their sleeves and getting their hands dirty. It means doing tasks that feel super inefficient and way too time-consuming, tasks that you could never do if you had a million users. But that's the whole point. You don't have a million users. You have zero. So what does this look like? It means you, the founder, have to be the first salesperson, the first customer support rep, the first everything. It's a direct person-to-person hustle to build that initial spark of momentum yourself. Okay, so let's see what this looks like in the real world. We're going to jump into the trenches with a couple of iconic companies that were literally built on this exact principle. This quote is so revealing because it's from an investor's point of view. Even though Airbnb had basically zero growth, their early backers saw these unscalable actions as a huge strength, not a weakness. And why? Because it proved they were absolutely obsessed with understanding their users. And oh man, were they obsessed. They didn't just send emails to their first hosts in New York. They flew out there, met them in person, and even stayed with them. When they figured out that terrible photos were killing their listings, they went out and took professional photos themselves. And they funded this whole crazy operation with a binder, a literal binder, full of maxed out credit cards. None of this was scalable. Not a bit. It was just painstaking, expensive, manual work. And look, this wasn't some Airbnb fluke. This pattern goes way, way back. Let's look at another company from the early days of the web, ViaWeb. They built software so people could make their own online stores. This quote just perfectly captures how weird this all feels. Their whole product was a do-it-yourself tool. Yet to get their first customers, they had to actually do it for them. It felt humiliating, you know? Like they were admitting their own product couldn't even do the one thing it was supposed to do. But they did it anyway. They built the stores. They manually rescanned product photos when the first ones just didn't look good enough. They did, and I mean this literally, anything to get those first users on board. They even went looking for harder technical problems to solve on purpose, because they knew it would make it even tougher for their bigger, slower competitors to catch up. So you might be listening to all this and thinking, why would anyone go through all this pain? Well, it's not just about surviving. This is where we get to the actual strategic genius behind the whole idea. It's so important to get this. These manual, unscalable actions, they aren't just a temporary band-aid. They are the actual foundation that a scalable company gets built on. They give you these core benefits you just can't get any other way.
Let's just break it down into 3 simple steps. First, you get your first users. You literally manufacture that initial momentum out of thin air. Second, by working so closely with them, you get the absolute best market research you could ever hope for. You don't have to guess what people want, they're telling you directly. And third, and this is huge, you bake a culture of customer obsession right into your company's DNA from day one. That's a superpower.
And this really gets to the ultimate payoff. Doing things that don't scale forces you to face the hardest truth of all. Have you actually made something people want? It gets you past all the excuses about marketing or sales and forces you to create real, genuine value.
So in the end, we're left with this really beautiful paradox. The only way to build a company that can grow to serve millions of people automatically is to start by serving your first handful of users completely and totally manually. And this isn't just a lesson for startup founders. It's for anyone trying to build something new from nothing. So the final question really is for you. To get your idea off the ground, what's that laborious, manual, totally unscalable thing that you're willing to do? Thanks so much for diving into this with me.